What's up, everybody? Welcome back to week 2 of the CPL Newsroom, presented by Volkswagen here in Toronto. We're off to a hot start. Mitch spilled my coffee all over the floor.
Already.
I'm not mad about it at all, but I did have to start the show with it. But anyway, welcome back. We're glad to be back after match week 8, I think, in the Canadian Premier League. We got a lot to get to today. We had a top-of-the-table clash. We're going to talk about Forge and what is impressing us about them at the moment. We had a Canada World Cup squad drop last week. We're going to get into that and just kind of tell a couple stories about how small the Canadian soccer world really is. And then we've got another amazing weekend coming up in the CPL, match week 9. Some big games and some big storylines that we're going to get to with that. But, Mitch, off the top here, Forge and Cavalry played on the weekend. First versus second. Forge win that one 1-0 to take over first place. But we need to talk about the way Forge are winning games because they scored another set piece.
Yeah.
Antoine Baptiste this time. It's not always the way that they score goals, right? But what is standing out to you? Because I feel like this is a story with them.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, to be fair, it is a bigger, wider story within the Canadian Premier League, which
Lots of set piece goals. That's true.
in the history of the CPL tends to mean Forge is probably doing it as well or better than everyone else, which is kind of how it goes at this point. And set pieces are no different. We've talked a little bit over this season just in terms of the new offside rule implemented and how that's kind of changing the way teams are defending and attacking set pieces. But you look at Forge, there's a couple things that stand out. First of all, Tristan Borges' deliveries this season. Noah Jensen as well, but Tristan Borges primarily have been fantastic. That's one thing. That it's the starting point of all these set pieces. They're coming into dangerous areas. They're doing a couple things really well. One is they're kind of multi-phase set pieces where they pick out one target in the middle. Baptiste to Peyton you see in the first game, or I think it was Nimick to Baptiste this time.
Yeah.
And they're kind of changing the angle of the attack where you think it's going to Nimick, he's going to head it goalwards, psych, he's going across goal to Baptiste. Pretty easy tap in there. The other thing I think they're doing really well is on the second phase of free kicks, you see them get into good zones and or corners, that kind of thing. Like you think of Brian Wright's goal against Pacific, I think it was. Different just moments like that where the ball comes out and guys aren't scrambling, they know where they want to be and it's an easy ball back in. The back line's maybe unsettled then and there's a goal. So they've been incredibly good at set pieces this season.
Yeah, I mean, I look at that goal Forge scored against Cavalry, and if I'm Cavalry, I'm honestly kind of pissed off at the way that I conceded that.
Can we say that now?
I don't know. But Tommy Wilden Jr. did point out that they've only conceded from set pieces this year.
Right.
I think they've conceded 4 now, and they've all been, none of them have been fully open play.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't checked. That's what Tommy said, but I do believe him. But yeah, I don't know who is running the set pieces for it. I don't know who their Austin McPhee is.
Right.
But so Bobby, let us know if there is somebody that's deserving of credit for those. But it is impressive to see how just well executed they are. Right. They've got so many ways, so many tricks in the bag, as you mentioned, the second phases. So you can't fully commit to every mark in the box. But I do also want to quickly talk about Antoine Baptiste in particular.
Yeah.
He scored, I think, 2 goals now this year.
That's one in CanChamp, too.
+1 in CanChamp. His finish on this one is amazing. It's center back to center back, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
I think Forge are going to run into a problem this year where their 2 center backs, both of whom in the team of the week, by the way, are going to split votes for Defender of the Year. Baptiste, to me, is like if you made a Forge international signing in a lab.
Yeah.
Right? Like we talked about how they might miss Alex Ashniotti-Johnson when he moved. This is like a similar kind of player, a clearly converted midfielder who just has that kind of ability on the ball and willingness to get forward, but also that kind of defensive mindset. He's fit in really nicely, I think.
Yeah, it's incredible how quickly him and Dan Nimick had an understanding. And you just look at that back line in general, like it's looked like they've played together for years now. And obviously, 3 parts of it have, but even with the goalkeeper Berteau behind them. And yeah, I mean, anytime you got your center back scoring 3 goals in a season, that's pretty incredible. But like you said, I think it's really the on ball. And that's so important for a Forge team, right? Like you have to be good on the ball, but Baptiste is in particular good at those important kind of first passes to start an attack or to make sure they maintain possession and, not the just the smart passes as well. Like Forge are a team that really don't want to allow too many counterattacks and those sorts of things. So they make sure those first few passes are, maybe they're not the most risky or exciting passes, but they're really solid passes to kind of firm up that possession. And Antoine Batiste is brilliant at those particular plays.
Yeah, there were a couple moments in that game against Cavalry where I saw him just sort of pick the ball up, look for the pass, didn't see it, and just runs with the ball.
Yeah.
And I love a defender that can do that as well. And it's clear that it's easier to do that if you've trained as a midfielder for a lot of your life, right?
For sure.
You can run through. But this battle at the top of the table, it feels like it's always Forge and Cavalry.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a third team involved in there, but they're always in there. Separated by 2 points now, I think, because Forge passed Cavalry with that win. Quarter pole of the season. I'm really interested in the next 2 games both these teams play before we go into the World Cup break. And I think it's going to give us a pretty good gauge of comparison for these teams because they have the same games.
Yeah.
Right? So this weekend coming up, we've got Cavalry hosting Halifax and Forge traveling into Toronto. Wednesday night, the last game before we go into the pause, it is Cavalry coming to Toronto and Forge hosting Halifax. Now, it's a slightly easier, let's say, for Forge because they don't have to travel to and from Calgary, right? They're just going to Toronto. It's not that big of an away trip. So Cavalry have a bit of a shorter turnaround after the Saturday game to get to Toronto. But I'm interested in kind of how those teams approach those games, how that little stretch defines maybe what the table looks like heading into the break. But we're having a break. Mitch.
We are.
We're pausing the CPL season for a couple of weeks.
Us specifically? I thought this was going well.
Well, we'll talk about that.
Okay,
we'll get to that later. But the CPL is going into a pause, as a lot of people know, in mid-June for some kind of soccer tournament that is apparently happening in Canada. We'll see. We'll see if anybody's interested. But no, World Cup squad dropped on Friday, and there's a few things that are actually specifically relevant to us in the CPL. We all know Joel Waterman, Cavalry FC alumnus, really came in and was kind of an under the radar star for that team in that first year. Obviously now he's gone on to CF Montreal and Chicago Fire, and he's going to his second World Cup with Canada. So we're incredibly proud of a CPL original. Mm-hmm. But there are, we'll get back to Joel in a second though, because I feel like there's a couple other sort of connections here that we want to talk about, because the Canadian soccer world, let's be real, not that big.
No.
Right? Most Canadian CPL players played with at least one current national team player growing up. And a lot of our coaches also did. You spoke to Bobby Smirniotis recently, who obviously we know, oversaw some of the development of Richie, Laryea, Cyle, Larin, Tejon Buchanan when they came through Sigma. What kind of stories was he telling you about those guys?
Yeah, it was a super fascinating conversation that'll be up at cplsoccer.com at some point in the next couple of weeks. So
read it.
Yeah, type that in your browser right now. But we know a bit of the story of Cyle, Larin and Richie coming through Sigma, but the kind of common denominator is these guys have been pretty similar throughout their entire footballing journeys. The interesting kind of anecdote or story you told me about Cyle Larin is basically like, anytime he goes somewhere and they give him 5 consecutive games, he's going. He's set. He's scoring. You look at this season, obviously he goes to Feyenoord. He struggles to get minutes. Doesn't go great. Yeah. Moves to Southampton. They give him 5 consecutive games. He scores a ton of goals. Almost gets them promoted. Not
through any fault of his own.
No, exactly.
Didn't get a chance.
Yeah, he didn't get a chance to obviously play in that final. Congrats to Liam Miller, who was also part of the Canada squad. But with Richie, similar thing. He's been that same competitive character, and you talk to anyone and they say Richie's like a different guy when he crosses the line to play. Like you've dealt with him plenty. Like he's a super nice guy, down to earth, really caring. And then when you get on the football pitch and you see those eyes,
he's terrifying.
Yeah, that just seem to pop out. Yeah. And he just he's been the exact way though since he was 10 years old. He was telling me, you know the foul he always seems to win where he turns his back to the defender at the last second and they ball him over? He's been doing that since he was 10. He's always been one of the smaller players on the pitch. So
He finds a way.
Yeah, exactly. He finds a way. The art of winning fouls was one of the things that Bobby keyed in on about, like, at a key moment in games where you need to, relieve the pressure a little bit. Those are so important, and we know Richie Laryea is really good at those. So, pretty fascinating discussion about some players who have become really cornerstone members of this Canadian men's national team.
Yeah, Richie's a funny one because it sounds like as you said, that intensity comes when he steps over the line onto a pitch. It's not just in a game. Tommy Wilden Jr. was telling me a story the other day about how in that January camp, when he was invited as an assistant coach, he reffed a scrimmage.
Yeah.
And he was telling me about how he's got Joel Waterman captaining one team on this side, and he's got Richie Laryea captaining one team on the other, and they were both just horrible to him.
Yeah.
Like they were both just yelling at him for every call and every foul, and they're just so competitive, which is I mean, a lot of fun. It makes the team fun to watch, and it makes for a good environment, and it's exactly what Jesse Marsh's looking to see. Speaking of Joel, though, if you haven't yet, CPLsoccer.com. Again, we're full of plugs today. Mm-hmm. I talked to Tommy about Joel because the story is pretty interesting. Like 10 years ago, there was not very much inkling of Joel Waterman even being a professional footballer, let alone a World Cup bound center back, right? Because he was playing U Sports and PDL as a midfielder mostly, and then Tommy invites him to play with the Foothills, right, in that 2018 year, where if you look at that roster, it's like almost the entire Cavalry squad from 2019. Yeah. So it's like maybe not so surprising that they were really dominant that year because it's basically the same team, stepped right into the pro game. But Tommy was telling me about how he kind of saw Joel and his ball playing ability, and he's like, that would actually fit in my back three as a center back, right? Not a midfielder. He goes to Joel and he says, all right, you're good on the ball. You like having the ball. Would you like to touch the ball 20 more times in a game? And Joel's like, yeah, obviously. And Tommy says, okay, have you ever played center back? He's like, no. You're going to try it now. And so in that 2019 season, he came in. He comes into the back three in their first game against then York 9 because Mason Trafford's injured in the last preseason game.
Right.
And then he goes on to start, I think, all but one of their spring season. And then the crazy part was, he became the first CPLer sold to an MLS team. Apparently the call came in from Olivier Renard at CF Montreal between the two legs of the final. And Tommy, apparently Tommy here is like, okay, CF Montreal, they're calling, they're interested in one of your players. He's like, must be Dominic Zator. Because remember, after that first game of the final,
right,
Joel had just been sent off.
Yeah.
Right, for his handball in the box, and it led to the penalty that Carducci saved, and one of the sickest photos I think I've ever seen. Whatever. Anyway, so apparently Joel was the CPL player that matched the profile Montreal wanted the most, and it was specifically because he was a ball-playing center back. Mm-hmm. Right. So you think about how Tommy saw that in him, Cavalry saw that in him, made him into that player, immediately moved him onto MLS. He played well over 100 games for Montreal, captained them a bunch of times into the last couple of years. And he's going to the World Cup again.
Yeah.
He's just a story, and we feel like there are other Joel Watermans in the CPL, right?
Absolutely, and I mean to obviously continue that story, that ball-playing center back ability is the reason why he is part of this Canadian men's national team, and it's the attribute that's gotten him onto the pitch so many times over the past few years. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it's all about opportunity and players taking it, but there's so many players of that talent. You think of a Dan Nimick, obviously. You think of Noah Batney. Like, there's so many of these guys who you have the feeling that if they get that opportunity at the next level, they're going to take it. But this is what the league's about, providing that platform and giving them kind of that start. Or, you think about guys like Waterman, who in the past, who knows where their story goes after university. Like, there's no place for them really in the same way as the Canadian Premier League. So, obviously incredibly important, and super excited to see him back. He's an important piece of this team now. This will be his second World Cup. Like, that's an incredible accomplishment for a player to have that kind of longevity over a 4-year cycle. It's not easy.
Yeah. Anyway, there's we could go on and on and on about CPL connections to the World Cup. I talked to Vanni Sartini, and he was like, "Yeah, I think there's 8 or 9 of my players, former players of the Whitecaps, going to the World Cup. 9 if Ralph Priso gets into the Canada squad, if he makes that replacement." But he was like, I think it's... Well, how many do you think you can name? There's, I think, 4 Canadians, not counting Priso, and 4 from other countries.
Kubas.
Andres Kubas,
Berhalter.
Sebastian Berhalter, USA.
Sean, well, how do you say that name?
I don't know, man.
Fair enough.
Who are you talking about?
I think that's all I've got. I'm trying to think of.
So there's 2 more international guys.
2 more internationals.
There's Alessandro Schopf.
Schopf, that's us.
Is that who you're?
Yeah,
okay.
Schopf.
I probably actually knew you were saying that as being a jerk.
You left me out to dry there.
And it's Pedro Vite.
Pedro Vite, yeah, of course.
And then with Canada, we've got Ali Ahmed.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can do this. Richie Laryea was on loan there briefly. Max Crepeau,
right,
was there his first year in Vancouver. And I don't remember who the last one was, but it might come back to us.
Fair enough.
Anyway, but yeah, Vanny again was like, he's still in touch with all those players. They all have so much respect for the work he's done and how he helped them. You know, Sebastian Berhalter in particular, I think, was a special one for Sartini to see get to this point. But again, just across the CPL, Supra, Rocco Placentino basically like helped Moise Bombito and Ismail Kone get where they are. There's so many of these stories. Keep an eye again on the website all through these next couple of weeks because we're going to tell you all those stories. But let's bring it back to the CPL because we've only got a couple games left to talk about heading into that break. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, there are some fun ones this weekend. We've got a Friday night game between Vancouver and Atletico Ottawa. We've got FC Supra playing in Quebec City, at Quebec, not just au Quebec this time, against Pacific FC. We've got Cavalry FC hosting Halifax, as we mentioned, and then we've got a first 905 derby of the year, Inter Toronto against Forge on Sunday. I want to start with Vancouver. They're hosting Ottawa, who got a point out of Pacific on the weekend. Frankly, I felt for Pacific a lot there. I really thought that they deserved the 3 points from that game. But anyway, Vancouver have deserved a lot more than they've gotten as well for most of this year. I'm calling this game almost must win for them, right? This is a Vancouver team that has been playing so well and just need that positive result heading into the break. I think that they have actually been creating a lot more than, say, Ottawa have been most of the year. And we've been watching Vancouver all year. We're like, this team is pretty good. They just need to score, right?
Yeah, I mean, Martin Nash said this is the most frustrated he's been as a player or a manager his entire career because they're doing everything right. But, I mean, if you want to look at Vancouver versus Atletico Ottawa, it's a team that's finding ways to get points and wins right now versus a team that's finding ways to lose them. And the thing, too, is, like, even in games like the weekend against Halifax where maybe you're away from home, you try and hang on for a draw, like, they're not even able to do that. They're allowing the late winner for Halifax and they leave the Wanderers grounds with nothing. So like you said, it's approaching must-win territory just from a psyche standpoint. Like obviously the point gap isn't insane right now. Like that's recoverable.
Yeah.
But from a psyche perspective, like at some point you need to get this done and like you can only say we're performing well for so long before those levels kind of drop when you don't have a clear proof of concept right now, and that's what's on them right now. Exactly, is to get it done.
It's tough to hold on to kind of belief, right? When you're playing well and a certain way, and the results aren't coming. You just need to win a game. I mean, they did beat Pacific.
Yeah,
they need to win another game, and then just go into further games believing that they're going to win them, right? That's like makes such a big difference when you feel like the ball's going in and that you have that chance when you go in. But, a really tough one for them to lose that game against Halifax. But on the flip side, awesome for Halifax to finally get a home win. Really, really desperately needed that. Big learning moment for Tavio Ciccarelli. Yeah. Don't take your shirt off when you're on a yellow card.
He definitely has not watched the history of the Halifax Wanderers.
No, it's not the first time. Or late goals at the Wanderers grounds. Remember Matthew Arnone's
kick the
corner flag kick, second yellow? That's maybe my favorite sending off in CPL history. But yeah, big for them to get a win at home. They really needed that for similar reasons, right? They just needed that belief. Some other fun games though this weekend. I think that we want to talk about Inter Toronto as well before we wrap up because this home test against Forge is probably one of their bigger tests of the year. They haven't played a derby yet this year. They've struggled over the last couple of years against Forge. this could be, if they are going to be a contender this year, this could be the moment to really, make that statement, right?
Well, you talked earlier about the Forge and Cavalry having the exact same schedule. I mean, there's two common denominators, but the one I'm most interested in right now is Inter Toronto, who's that club who we've been talking about for a bit as maybe the incumbent to the top two right now and kind of pushing for those spots.
I don't think that's what incumbent means.
Okay, fair enough. What word am I looking for this time?
Challenger?
Shots. I'm just kidding. Challenger. They're right there. They missed a big opportunity this last weekend with obviously Cavalry dropping points.
It was tough. They were outplayed in that second half after that downpour, but
Yeah, absolutely. So they missed a big opportunity, but now they have a very direct opportunity to take points off both these clubs. And if you ask them about the two of them, the one that they'll be up for most, I think, is probably this 905 derby against Forge. Again, I think it's 11 straight now that they haven't won in against their rival. It's the one team Mauro Eustáquio hasn't been able to beat since he's taken over as Inter Toronto head coach. Benny Badibanga revenge game. We haven't quite seen him reach the levels we were expecting this season. Is kind of maybe a forgotten storyline a little bit, but one that I think will end up being significant on the day and leading in. So, yeah, this is an exciting moment. I mean, this is kind of the game, I think, before the season when we saw the kind of roster that Inter Toronto was putting together was, okay, maybe a little bit how do they do against Ottawa, because that's been a budding rivalry, but really
did well.
Yeah, did very well. There you go.
It worked out for them.
It worked out great against Ottawa. Okay, now how do you do against Forge, who's still always been that team that's always been in their way at every step when they're trying to take that next step? So this is going to be a big weekend for them to learn a little bit about themselves, a little bit about their squad, what kind of players are ready for this kind of matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd imagine that Benny Badibanga, as you said, is motivated in training because he definitely wants to start that game. So hopefully he is able to make sure that his fitness is in the right spot. Obviously, he's been kind of building that up this year, so maybe he's been building up to this week. Going to be a lot of fun. Again, we will be back with you again next week. Thank you for bearing with us as we kind of adjust to the new version of the CPL Newsroom. Thank you to Volkswagen, obviously purveyor of fine automobiles. And anyway, check out cplsoccer.com all week for all this cool storytelling we're doing around the World Cup. And in the meantime, comment what you think about this podcast, and subscribe. We'll be back with you soon.
I'll go get you a coffee and figure out what incumbent means.